Hi guys, it's Paula and I hope you are doing well. This is going to be my monthly update for Pan and every palette. We are running a few weeks late, as you may have noticed. And there is some progress to show for it, on one shadow at least. So I'm kind of excited for today's update, although with us being halfway into September, I am getting a little freaked out. No kidding, no lie. I'm a little freaked out that the end of the year is right around the corner, and I had such high hopes and big plans for my little palettes, and you know, we're not as far along as I had hoped. I am panning a duo, which is under the hashtag Baby Pan That Palette. And the idea behind Baby Pan That Palette is to work on a palette with 5 pans or fewer and pan it. For me, I'm trying to pan it to completion. So I work on it until it's done. And when it is finally done, I choose a new Baby Pan That Palette from my vast stash of Baby Pan That palettes. I have already finished over the years, over many, many years, I have finished a quad and a duo, and now I'm working on another duo. I'm also working on 2 other quads in this palette for the Better Together theme and Kicking It Old School theme, which was the Pantastic Ladies Pan That Palette theme of the year, created by Dana and Jessica. So what should we start with first? Let's start with Baby Pan That Palette, because sadly I don't feel like I have much progress on that one. The Baby Pan That palette I'm currently working on is a little Smashbox duo. This was sent to me through an Ipsy box years and years and years ago, and it's just 2 shades from the full-size Smashbox Full Exposure palette. I don't own that palette. I never had any intentions of getting it. I think I was like up to my eyeballs in neutral palettes by the time this palette came out, and I didn't feel like I needed any more. But these 2 pans of eyeshadow are outstanding, and I've loved every minute of working on it. I really enjoy the quality of these shadows, and I have nothing bad to say other than the fact that it does get hard to wear a golden bronzy eye look day in and day out, and I get bored easily. But let me show you a picture of where I was at last month with this little duo. At the last update, I should say, because it's definitely been more than a month since we've talked about this palette. And this is where we are now with this little guy. I feel like I haven't used the matte shade at all. And I know that's kind of silly because we are getting down to the very last bits of this powder. You'd think I would be in full gear panning this guy, but I have been working on that corally shade from my Too Faced Perfect Peachy Mattes palette, and the peachy shade from my Viseart Petite Pro 2 for months now. I did finally finish the peachy shade from my Viseart Petite Pro 2 palette, but I'm still working on that corally shade. And because I'm working on those 2 so diligently, I really haven't touched this kind of neutral brown shade at all. Maybe once. I mean, like, really, it's just been peach every freaking day for the last 8 weeks. That's okay. I don't mean to sound like I'm hating on peach. I still love peach, but it's just kind of like, come on, any day now, like, let's hit pan already. But as a result, I just really haven't touched this matte shadow. I have used the shimmery shade several times though. I don't know if there's going to be an expansion of pan. I feel like I've just kind of been working this half down here to hit pan or expand the pan, or at least get rid of that shiny bump that's kind of sticking out. But I have used the shimmery side of this duo several times over the past month, whereas I don't know if I used the matte side at all, unfortunately. I do have a lot more of the shimmery side, so I mean, one way or another, I'm probably going to run out of this matte shade first. So the fact that I could pair this shimmery goldeny bronzy shade with my peachy corally shadow that I'm trying to hit pan on is good, because like I said, once this matte shade is gone, I'm going to have to pair this goldeny shade with something anyways. So that's where I'm at with this duo. Let's move on to my Pan That palette, i.e. Kicking It Old School, i.e. Better Together. The two quads I'm working on are a Maybelline Quad and a Clinique Quad. And the reason I chose them for this Panda palette is that one is pretty much all matte and one is pretty much all shimmer. And I like to do a combination of matte and shimmer with just about every eye look. So I thought they were better together than apart. Let's start with the Maybelline Quad. I'll throw up a picture of where I was at last month. And this is where I am now. So not much has changed with the way I use this quad. I still use this first shade as a brow bone highlight almost every day. I still barely touch this shadow right here. And I have been using these two shadows kind of interchangeably as an outer corner shadow to deepen my eye looks. Every month I keep thinking I'm gonna hit pan on this third shade, and every month I do not hit pan on this third shade, so go figure. But I definitely feel like I've expanded pan on the shimmery shade, and you know, I'm happy about that. But yeah, it's slow going with the other three. I'm happy to be making progress on one of the shades, but yeah. I definitely think, even though this shade looks kind of shimmery, I mean, I think you could see it looks kind of satiny, I actually prefer this as like a matte crease and transition shade. And I think it will be a good replacement for the matte shade in the Smashbox Duo once it's gone. So that's good. So yeah, they're about the same color, depth, tone. And so I'll start using this as my crease shade the way I've been using this one once it's gone, and that way I'll keep working on my little shimmery side of the Smashbox Duo. Of course, I also have several mattes in my Clinique Quad to choose from as well. Speaking of which, let's move on to my Clinique Quad. I will throw up a picture of what this quad looked like at the last update. And this is what it looks like now. Oh my gosh, finally, I have some progress to talk about on this sad little quad. I did start multitasking this shade a couple months ago as an under eye setting powder, and that's how I've made so much progress on it. I definitely need to repress it. I was just waiting to film this update to do so, because when I do repress this, I'm not going to repress it back into this pan. I'm going to take it out of this packaging, which I probably should have done a long time ago, and put it in a pan with a little bit more room where I could take my brush and, you know, use it. I am using a Wayne Goss number 10 brush to set my under eyes, so it is kind of a small brush, but even with it being small, it's still way too big for this pan. So I just wanted to show you guys before I repressed it, but I have been beyond ready to repress it for a while now, and I just needed to get this filmed. Sadly, I haven't touched these other three shadows at all, but at this pace, I actually think this is going to be the first shade I finish from Panda palette, and it might be done by next month. I think there's a really good chance that that'll be a goner. I basically only need to finish what's stuck to the sides. I mean, at last month's update, I had the tiniest speck of pan. I basically couldn't see the pan at all unless I took this palette into my bathroom where I have more like halogen lights and just kind of like tipped it back and forth until it caught like just a little bit of the light. And now I can't believe it. It is going so fast. And these pans are pretty deep. Even though these are tiny little squares, they are pretty deep pans of shadow. So if I were hell-bent on finishing this palette, I think at this point I would just combine these three eyeshadows together and use them as a bronzer, which I'm not saying is a bad idea. I'm just saying I have a lot of bronzer I need to pan too, and I'm enjoying panning my bronzer. But to be honest, I think the fastest way to get rid of this palette would be to keep using this as an under eye setting powder, combine these three powders, and use it as a bronzer. that is a tough choice that every project panner needs to think about. I know some project panners love multitasking their eyeshadows and they just want to get through them. And I could definitely see myself down the road, like, should I use up all the bronzers I have, turning to eyeshadow and using them before going out and purchasing another bronzer or blush or highlighter or whatever. But because I have so many bronzers, I don't want to stop using them and just pan eyeshadows as bronzers. Although my opinion on that might change at some point. That's how I feel now. That's how I felt about it for a long time. Although in this case, I really don't have any use for a matte white eyeshadow at all. I don't set my primer with matte white eyeshadow. I don't like matte white as a brow bone highlight. So a matte white eyeshadow is basically useless to me. So using that, multitasking that as an under eye setting powder makes a lot of sense. Whereas I would absolutely use these 3 browns as an eyeshadow if I needed them. I just haven't needed them. I've been using this matte shade in here every day. Or I use the shimmery shades to deepen up my outer V. So I do plan to get to these at some point. I don't know if it's going to happen this year or not. I hope to. It'd be great to at least have another pan showing or something. But I'm really happy that I've made so much progress on this matte white shade, and it would be looking exactly the same as it did 2 months ago if I was still just using it as an eyeshadow, because I don't need a matte white eyeshadow in my beauty routine. It's just not part of my beauty routine really at all. So I'm glad to be getting some use out of this, because we'd still be sitting in the same boat we were in 2 months ago if I wasn't. And I think it works great as an under eye setting powder. I really don't have any complaints. It's brightening, but not too brightening. It doesn't leave my under eyes looking weird or crepey or powdery. It's just been good. So I'm definitely going to be repressing this as soon as I'm done filming this video, or in this weekend sometime. But yeah, I think that's where we're at with Pan That palette for this month, you guys. I hope this was a better update than some of the ones we've had so far this year. I feel like this has been slow moving even for me, which I am a slow moving project panner, as you probably know, but I feel like this has been slow moving even by my standards. So hopefully this was somewhat exciting, and hopefully by next month we'll have maybe my first empty. That would be really awesome. Anyways, that is going to be it for this month's update. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.